What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on in NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. In a minute here, I'm going to have Hunter Doyle is going to kind of join in here. We're going to do a conversation. I think you guys are going to like this. So we're going to talk a lot about the draft. We're going to talk about building around Jalen Hurts, about identifying Hurts, what he is, what he's not, all that kind of stuff. But inside of this conversation, guys, if you hang through it, there's a really interesting piece where Hunter and I got into a conversation about Brian Johnson's role as the quarterback coach. And guys, I'm going to raise the point in here that I think Brian Johnson's going to be very important to the install of our offense when it comes to quarterback designed things. So, all right, y'all, let's get into the conversation. What's going on, everybody? This is Stephen Hyder here with Gate City Sports Channel. And today I got a special guest here. I got one of the members of the Philly Insider podcast who has agreed to come talk some Eagles football with me. And more specifically, guys, we're going to talk some draft. So without me taking up too much time, guys, I want to let my guest come on, introduce himself, just kind of talk about where he's from, how he got into the Eagles, how he got into producing YouTube videos, and we'll start the conversation off there.
Yeah, well, what's going on, everyone? I'm Hunter Doyle. I'm from Philly Insider Podcast, and I write for the blog InsideTheEagles.com on Fansided. So, yeah, I'm on Philly Insider Podcast. Me and my guys just started this during quarantine. We had nothing to do. Our friends knew we love sports, and a lot of our friends from our high school wanted to see us do videos, and we wanted to do videos just because we had a group chat where we would talk sports a lot. Weren't a lot of sports fans in the chat outside of the five of us, so we figured it'd be best to just start it and started it up. Ever since then, we've been doing content, kind of figuring out the content game, not doing 2.5-hour videos anymore. So that's been great. And just getting to know each other more too. It's been great. And that's kind of how we got into the videos. And yeah, we just cover all Philly sports. We do our best to get you guys the best content that we can. And we're excited. We're excited to keep doing content. I appreciate you having me on, Gate. Thank you so much, man.
It's no problem, Hunter. So when you say Philly sports, I take it you're a 4-for-4, right? You're Phillies, Flyers, yeah, Eagles, Sixers. There we go, man. So where are you from? Why don't you let them know, where are you from? Give them that kind of information.
Yeah, so I'm about 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia, around Bucks County area. So, I reside there, and I've grew up there my whole life, lived there my whole life, and I went to school a little bit closer to Philadelphia. Philadelphia on the address, not actually really Philadelphia. More northeast, but went to school there my whole life. So yeah, that's pretty much been around where I'm from. And now I'm in Wheaton, Chicago at college right now. So a little bit of a different change for these next 4 years, but it's been good for the past 2 years being here.
I got some folks up in Chicago, man. I did my basic up in Great Lakes, and I got some friends I was in the service with that live up that way. They're a very unique group of people that are very blunt and to the point.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, we got similar track records here, man. I'm not from proper Philadelphia either. I grew up in Newcastle, Delaware, about 5 miles outside of Wilmington, Delaware, guys, right by the Dell Memorial Bridge. Moved to North Carolina right before high school. And then, you know what? Just started converting all these North Carolinians down here apparently into Phillies and Eagle fans mostly. Now, there's a lot of guys that came from South Jersey, Northeast Delaware, and Eastern Pennsylvania that live out here in North Carolina. We're hoping, fingers crossed, we might be able to get Philly 500 to come out to the coast out here. We'll see. We're trying to work on that.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the Eagles, man. Let's just jump right into a few of the topics here. Yeah. One of the things that I think is important, and I haven't had time to cover it, so I think you're a great person to kind of talk about this with, because I know our content can kind of have some similarities at times. The Eagles are not just out of the hole. We are now $5,552,868 out of the hole, sitting here on April 2nd. And by the way, to my knowledge, that does not include the cap savings that we will receive from Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson's June 1st designation. That'll come a couple more months from now. We'll get an additional, I want to say it's like $4 million, but I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like that.
Sounds right.
I mean, it's crazy because it's a long journey. I tracked a lot of it on my channel of how the Eagles were going to do it. I think I hit on a lot of things. There were a couple of things that I hit on all the players. I had a pretty good feel for who the players were that was going to happen with, but some of the specifics in terms of extensions versus, guys that basically kind of were going to renegotiate and restructure the contract. I missed on a few of those. And I think that I'm not the only one. I think a lot of people were why in the world didn't we extend Isaac Seumalo? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why the heck would you? That doesn't make sense to restructure him. Why wouldn't you have extended him? I definitely think that they caught me on a couple to where I didn't think about it fully. I didn't get the full picture of what they were trying to do. Like Jason Kelsey, when I saw how they worked the extension, that 1 year extension with the dummy years, it made more sense to me that basically what they were going to do was they were going to take some of that money and just convert that into a signing bonus, prorate it with dummy years and call it a day. And
right.
I mean, that kind of shocked me. But there's a controversial thing that happened recently. And it's something that I brought up on Philly 500 show. And I just want to state, and we'll both, Hunter and I will clarify that this is not the only reason the Eagles did this. It's multiple reasons why something like this happens. But the Eagles traded down from the 6th pick to the 12th pick. This is something I did raise when I went on the live stream with 500. And I said, like, hey, this kind of concerns me. The Eagles could maybe pull something like this. They could pull the wool over everybody's eyes and do this because we were up against it a little bit against the cap. I mean, I knew that we were going to get there. There was no doubts there. I knew we would create a little bit. But I also know that when you look at the 6th pick is going to cost you this year. This is the estimate. And by the way, previous years it was higher. But it was $4,924,740 for the 6th pick. That's the estimate. The 12th pick is $3,105,424. So you're talking about nearly, it's not quite, but it's nearly a $2 million savings to go from the 6th pick to go to the 12th pick. Now, there's a lot of confusion around this topic, and I want to help people. Since both of us are here, I think this is something we're both pretty skilled at. I want to help people understand this. So when we say savings, there are multiple ways of looking at this. So a lot of people get confused and like, right, but aren't rookie contracts already kind of included in the salary cap? And it's kind of, not fully though. So you have something called the rule of 51. During the offseason, guys, all the way up to training camp, your 51 top paid players are what count against your cap for that time frame. So basically what you're doing when you draft guys is that theoretically they're going to come in over. It doesn't always work like that, but theoretically most of those guys are going to come in over what other guys were getting paid. So you have to take the league minimum salary and subtract it because you've already paid the league minimum over, 11, 12 guys, whatever the numbers we'll finally pick here. So you have to subtract that out of it. And then you have to then look at, okay, well, there's going to be some signing bonus stuff that gets added into this. It's going to get prorated. And then it's a complex formula, guys. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how they determine what the 6th pick is worth versus the 12th pick, guys. It's really complex. It's far above my understanding. I would actually really need someone from the front office to sit down and explain it. And by the way, they never would. That's not something they're going to reveal. But you look at this, man, and the Eagles did this from 6 to 12. I definitely think part of this is an aspect of like, hey, man, this team is more than one player away. We can use the nearly $2 million in savings, $1 to $1.5 million, I think is a favorable amount to say because we did move up from the 5th pick to the 4th pick, and that's going to have a reverse effect on the cap, if you will. But if you look at that $1 to $1.5 million, now we're sitting here at $5 million of free cap space to play with. I think that the Eagles looked at the draft board, and even though you and I were probably like, I would take Kyle Pitts, I would take Jamar Chase. It's just not their draft history. It's not their philosophy. They saw that they could potentially save money. They could probably still get a player that they value at positions they value in the range, and they moved down. But let's be honest, man. What were your initial thoughts when you got that breaking news alert where it said the Philadelphia Eagles have just traded the 6th pick?
Well, my initial thoughts, I'm not going to lie. I'll be honest. I called my friend and I was very upset. I was very upset because I like LSU a lot. I watch them. They're definitely, if I have a bandwagon team for college, it's definitely LSU, dating back to when they had Odell and, Jarvis Landry and all those guys. But I was really high on Jamar Chase. I was also really high on Kyle Pitts, who I wasn't high on at first, but as Matt Miller says in draft and scouting, all that, you always have to be willing to change your evaluation on a player. And my evaluation on Kyle Pitts continued to change drastically from my initial thoughts on him. So I was extremely high on the both of them, and I was definitely upset about it. But like you said, it makes a lot of sense from a money standpoint. And might I add too, Zach Ertz is still on the books as well. So when he's gone, we'll see how much that changes as well. And so I'm surprised he's still on the roster at this point too. But we can get into that for sure. It still makes sense though. This draft, I don't know why it feels like there's a lot of talent in this draft to me. I feel like this is just a very talented draft overall, and you can still get a game changer at number 12, I think. Whether it's even just an Elijah Vera Tucker who can play the interior, whether it's a Jalen Waddle, whether it's a, Devontae could fall because of not doing his pro day, or who knows, they're talking even Surtain could fall. I'm a big JC Horn guy. He's one of my favorites in the draft. You have a lot of guys there who you could definitely still end up with a real game changer. And in my opinion, with JC Horn, someone, or even a Surtain, someone who could really fit into Jonathan Gannon's potential scheme. We don't know what his scheme is going to be, but based on, Mike Zimmer's track record, since he's coached under him, and the defense in Indianapolis that we saw, if Jonathan Gannon's defense incorporates some of those elements, whether it's cover 2 or press man, I think that, someone like JC Horn or Patrick Surtain can make a lot of sense here. And I think it made a lot of sense. You get some future draft capital. You have a potential of 3 first-round picks next year. Obviously, you have to hit on those. We saw the Raiders have those and draft Clelin Ferrell, I believe it was, at number 4. And they really only hit on Josh Jacobs in those 3 first-round picks, from what I remember a couple years ago. I might be wrong on that if someone wants to fact check that, but I think it does make a lot of sense, though. I do. I think it was a good decision. It was a good trade overall. Now that I've had some time to look at it.
See, and I think you're raising an important point that I want to make sure that gets emphasis. There's some emphasis placed on this, which is, of course, the idea of saving money crossed the Eagles' minds, knowing that the 6th pick is going to cost you more than the 12th pick is going to cost you.
Yeah.
But that's not, you don't make that move solely based upon, I might save $1 to $2 million. Like, that's not why you're making the move. Ultimately, it's just something, it's the icing on the cake of the way of looking at it. Obviously, you don't make that move unless you say the guys that we value at that position aren't going to be available to us. And we feel like if we just move down, it'll slide our draft board perfectly for us. But I want to start on something I think is a big topic here. And moving down, we move down behind 2 division opponents, which is the Cowboys and the Giants. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think that maybe this is being pumped up to be a little, look, I mean, a team could try to be spiteful and do something to disrupt your board, but ultimately you should be playing for your own team's strengths and weaknesses and the value that's at the draft board or where you're picking. You really shouldn't be worried about what the Eagles are doing per se. Like, how do you view that situation now that we're in back of them waiting to try to pick now?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie. From a fan perspective, it's very frustrating after the whole CeeDee Lamb situation last year. My one friend on the podcast, he's a massive CeeDee Lamb fan. He had his Fanatics CeeDee Lamb custom Eagles jersey ready to buy because CeeDee Lamb kept falling, and he was getting excited. And then there was the report that we possibly could have traded in front of Dallas because the Falcons wanted A.J. Terrell, and they felt like they could have traded back to 21 to get him, which, obviously we don't know if that's 100% true. But after he heard that, he was pretty upset. So I'm sure he's not happy to be behind the Cowboys again. And especially knowing Jerry Jones, he could definitely be one. He's one of those people who's going to try to be spiteful at times, for sure. Now, obviously, there's no way to prove that he was doing that last year. But anyway, I am a little bit frustrated about that. But at the same time, I do think that it's a business at the end of the day. And while you are focused on the division, they're focused on what they need to do. Like if Kyle Pitts is there at 11 by some chance, the Giants know that's what they got to do, and they need to get someone in there other than Evan Engram. If the Cowboys got a DB on the board, which they very likely will, they know they've got to take a Patrick Surtain to pair up with Trayvon Diggs. They know they've got, especially with Chidobe Awuzie now signing with the Bengals now, they know what they've got to do. So I definitely think it's something that will frustrate a lot of Eagles fans. It frustrates me in the back of my mind, I'm going to be honest, but I do think that, at the end of the day, even if they do try to spite us, there's going to be guys that will fall to us that we're still going to end up with a playmaker at number 12. So I think it's going to end up. I think it's going to be good in the long run, no matter what.
I would also say this. I don't know that they would execute such a plan, but let's be honest. If the Eagles want a player and they fear that the Cowboys and the Giants might take that player, that's not going to stop the Eagles. We have way more in our coffers than they do. We can trade up and go get anybody we really want to, honestly. Yep. I mean, to be fair and honest about it, it's just a matter of how much do you want to give up to go get a player? What is the rest of the value on the board? Like, everyone's going to see it differently. If you talk to even internally in the Eagles, I guarantee you there is some division over to like how much value said players should have. Like, I'm a huge Zach Wilson fan. I was definitely on him early, and I said, look, this is a guy that I think if out of all the quarterbacks in the draft, this is a guy that I would definitely try to move up and make a play for.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I knew that it was going to be very unlikely because, you got Joe Douglas there with the Jets. Like, he's not an idiot. Like, he knows exactly what we would be trying to do. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to want, if he doesn't want him, which I always found that would be crazy. I mean, I clearly know he's going to want that player, but if he didn't want him, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to definitely make you really pay above what you probably should be paying for that player. I mean, what good is it to put a guy that could be a potentially franchise quarterback in there if you can't put anything around him to win? I mean, that would be the issue I would have with that. And that's why I think it is kind of smart for the Eagles to just play, hey, like, look, we looked at the quarterback market. Nobody we value that highly was going to make it to 6. Mm-hmm. So we felt like if we picked the quarterback at 6, we would be reaching so hard we pull our arm out of socket.
Right.
So they moved back. And I get it. Like, hey, there's only Penei Sewell as an offensive lineman. You got Jamar Chase. And then, you got Kyle Pitts. I felt like one of those 3 probably was going to make it to 6. Whether it was Sewell, whether it was Jamar Chase, whether it was Kyle Pitts. I felt one of them was highly likely to be there at 6 because it just seems very likely to me that we're going to see 3 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks. I don't see any other way. Like, the 49ers are not trading up to 3 to go take a tight end or a wide receiver.
Yeah.
It's not happening. So, I mean, like, obviously, unless the Jets just completely throw a curveball and go with a Kyle Pitts or a Chase, or they go and they try to pair up somebody with Mekhi Becton. I think that's who they selected last year. Yeah. So, I mean, they could go Penei Sewell and say, like, this guy can play anywhere and do something like that. But I doubt it, man. I think they're going quarterback there. I think they're absolutely going to go quarterback. So I think they're going to get 1, 2, and 3 is going to be quarterbacks. I mean, I look at the Eagles and I kind of agree with the philosophy, which is like, you know what? Like, let's see what Jalen Hurts has. Like, there's definitely some things concerning on the film with him, but there's also some things to where, like you say, like, hey, man, like, if you can get this kid to play in time of the offense, when you look at what he does off script, when you look at what he does outside the structure of the offense, he's got that special ability that we once saw from guys like McNabb and those type of guys. Even Wentz was really good outside the structure of the offense. Yeah. The problem with Wentz is the same problem we're really seeing from Hurts, which is, can you play inside the structure of the offense? Like, that's where it's going to have to go. I mean, he's been working with Quincy Avery to kind of get that, to try to get to those reads and make sure he knows where to go when it comes to these hot reads. A little bit of an elongated delivery, but I don't think it's something that I wouldn't overly worry about that. Like, if I really looked at I'd say about 75 to 80% of the quarterbacks I watch film on at times have kind of an elongated delivery, especially when they're really trying to push the ball down the field. They spread the legs. When the legs get wide, the upper half tends to follow it. And then you start getting an elongated delivery. Yeah. And exactly. Phillip Rivers, who's like one of my favorites. I mean, I'm an NC State guy. Like, that guy's like, he's like royalty out this way. Like,
right.
Probably the guy you look at the most and you go, dude, the throwing motion makes no sense. Bro, his like the entire like delivery is completely way too elongated. Like, but he played into a system that was, I won't say that it was completely sped up, but it wasn't, it's not Doug Peterson. It's not Andy Reid's. It's not, it was definitely a mid-tier system where it was, you expect the guy to be about 2.6 to, probably 2.7-ish in terms of their time to throw on average. Like, that's about the range in the window you see from Indianapolis. And I thought he did okay. I mean, I thought they caught him late in his career and there was just no arm strength left. There was just no arm talent left in Phillip Rivers, to be honest. But I mean, all things considered, for a guy, you take a guy like Jalen Hurts, who I don't think is anywhere near as bad as Phillip Rivers in terms of the elongated delivery. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is better than Phillip Rivers, guys, before y'all start going crazy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that his delivery isn't as elongated as that. I don't think his pocket mechanics are that bad. I don't. Like, I look at Jalen Hurts, and they're really not that bad. Everything is pretty fixable. I think his footwork is, he's not like an overly huge, tall guy, so he doesn't like overstride. He doesn't do a lot of the things that we see from the 6'4", 6'5", and taller quarterbacks. I think for him, it's all about it's processing. But when I say processing, I want to explain what that is, because I think people, they misunderstand what that term means. So processing is a multifaceted thing that starts at the pre-snap. It's about understanding what the offense's concepts are and then looking across and seeing the pre-snap coverage and the pre-snap defense, whether they're in base, a sub-package, whatever they're in. You're looking at the things at pre-snap and you're judging, okay, this is what it is. This is what the offensive design is. This is where the ball should be going. Then you have the post snap. You have the things, and then you have the hike. Now you have the post snap. Now you're saying, okay, did they disguise something? Did they shift? Did I think that they were playing did I think they were playing cover 2 or quarters, and now they brought one of the corners down, they rotated one of the safeties over to the weak side, and now they're in a cover 6. So what is inside this? That's what processing means. Mm-hmm. That's hard to do when you only got 4 games of experience. Like that's hard to do even when you got 10 years of experience. I mean, defensive coaches are good at what they do. They keep inventing things. They keep inventing ways of tricking guys. But that's to me, that's where the improvement has to happen in his game. And to be honest with you, I think as long as he can just see the simple things people are trying to do, like when they're trying to bring containment blitzes, like, okay, like these guys are bringing a containment blitz. They want to keep me in the pocket. Cool. I'm going to stay in the pocket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the ball right over the second level, right over your linebackers on this drag route, on this hot route. I'm going to eat you guys up until you drop out of doing this. That's where he's got to get better. And I mean, honestly, I don't think it's a stretch to say that with the offseason, with him putting in work with Quincy Avery, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that because that's the quickest solution for this draft stuff to make a lot of sense is for Jalen Hurts to prove himself to be not just a starting, because I think he's already kind of proven himself to be at least a back end starter. Yeah. But the question is, can we now become to be a top 12 guy? Can we build a franchise around you? And that's what I think. I think that's what this season should be. It should be about. It should be about whether or not Jalen Hurts can prove himself to be that guy. Yeah, but I'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you view these picks? How do you view these picks in light of Jalen Hurts? Like, because there are rumors that we're loading up in case there's a failure. There's rumors that we might have been loading up to get back up into the top 5 again, and we just needed more arsenal, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, but people say that because they say that you can't really trade the Carson Wentz pick because you don't really even know where the value is going to be on that one yet. So you can only really trade, now you got 2 firsts and then you got your first, from this year. But where do you look at this? Do you think that this is them maybe trying to gear themselves up for a move up to the top 5 again? Do you think this is the Eagles potentially trying to buy an insurance policy for 2022? Or do you think that this is the Eagles saying, like, look, I can trade back, I can keep adding these picks if this young man proves himself to be a top 12 quarterback in this league? And I don't think he has to be a top 12 quarterback this upcoming season. He just has to start showing that he's trending towards that way. That now we got something, we have the picks to load up the talent around the young man. Like, we might have something here. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you see that situation?
Yeah, I think they definitely want to give him the 16 games, right? Well, obviously he's not going to play the full 16 if he's absolute trash, right? But I think they definitely want to see what he's got. At the end of the day, we both know this, football's a business, as we've been talking about. They invested a 2nd-round pick on him, and I think they want to see some of that return on investment. I think people forget, I mean, he had a virtual offseason last year. He was also taking snaps as a gadget player for a little while there at the beginning of the season. I personally didn't agree with that or understand it, but he finally got in the quarterback position. Like you said, we only saw him for 4 games, or 4.5 technically, including the Packers game. But I mean, very mixed bag of results, I would say. First 2 games versus the last 2 games were even the first half of the Dallas game, or first quarter of it, I should say. You saw very different Jalen Hurts at times, especially like you said, in terms of processing. I think that's what it comes down to is just, like you said, the hot reads when there's a blitz coming, knowing who's like where the blitz is coming from, what your concept is. I remember, I think it was week 17, and J-Jaw was out there, surprisingly, for once. And he was running right out of the slot, which, I mean, he actually looks like he does have some potential out of the slot. But remember, he was running out of the slot. Blitz came. He was right now. Now, J-Jaw, I don't believe he turned his head, if I'm remembering correctly, to even look for the ball. But that would have been where the hot read probably would have been, because it was right in the area of the blitz. It was just a little go route. And he actually still did. He still got the ball. It was, I believe it was either quarter coverage or cover 2. So where he got the ball right in the middle of the field, like contest and catch, and he made a nice catch. But just little things like that. I think, Jalen Hurts has definitely got to get better at processing, not bailing out of the pocket at times, I think is something he's got to get better at too. Yeah. And just like a lot of times in college, it was a lot of like 1-2 read stuff. It was very like quick read based, not all the time, obviously, but I mean, at Oklahoma, you have that shallow drag crosser screen, which is a big part of that Lincoln Riley scheme. And obviously, that's you look to see if the shallow crosser's there. If it's not, then you take off and it's a QB draw, right? So stuff like that, just very basic reads. He's got to get used to processing at an NFL level. And also, like you said, against defenses at NFL level, because obviously the Big 12 isn't exactly known for its defense, for being honest. So it's going to be a little bit different when you get a lot of the skies. And, like you said, pre-snap, maybe it's middle field closed. Then post-snap, you see, oh, this guy's now it's middle field open, right? So stuff, little things like that, I definitely think he's got to get better at. But look, I think putting aside the X's and O's, this kid's got the intangibles. I mean, I think he's a harder worker than anyone. He's going to put in 110%. And I think that he's a leader. I think these young guys, they look up to him right now. And I think they need someone like that to kind of lead them through what maybe it might be a transition period. I think it could end up being a little bit better. I have a lot of confidence in the coaching staff right now and the team. But again, it's going to be the first year. So you're going to be testing a lot of new stuff out. You have to account for that. But I think Jalen Hurts has a lot of the intangibles. Like you said, off platform, out of structure, he can definitely get that done. But hey, I mean, a lot of guys, there are a lot of hard work.
Yeah. It's a balance. It's a balance on that. And that's the hard thing is like, I can't point to you and tell you like, oh, you should be this percentage on time, on schedule within the offense. And then this percentage of time where you're off platform, you're making plays outside the structure. Like no one knows. It's just, you feel it. You can feel it as the kind of game goes on. Okay, like this young man's playing a little too much outside the structure of the offense. Like it's really difficult. But like I always tell people, the most exciting plays come out of structure. They just do. As fans, it's the most enjoyable moments of a football game. I'll give you an example. That the one that always comes to my mind, I think it was the Atlanta game in 2019 where Carson Wentz is avoiding the pass rush. It's not his fault that they're playing out of structure right now. But before the knee goes down, he throws this crazy ball and it gets a completion there. Like that's outside the structure of an offense. Like that's not the way they drew that up. That's not the way that Doug had that planned out to be. Like it's a balance between those, and it's really hard to strike the balance. And I think that's what this season's going to really be about is like, can they strike the balance here? Like we know he can play outside the structure. We know he can be exciting. We know he can put stress on a defense. But my question is, I don't know that with Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni breaking that down, I don't know how much experience they have with a guy like, Jacoby Brissett, NC State guy too, started with Florida, came to NC State, a guy I'm familiar with. He's elusive. He can work the pocket. He can do all those things too. He's not the same running threat. You don't necessarily build concepts around his running ability. I don't know that Nick Sirianni is going to have Nick Sirianni, I think, runs a different type of offense to that. I mean, I think that might be why Brian Johnson's here personally. Like, and I know people laugh at it like, well, I mean, how much influence is a quarterback coach going to have? More than you think. Right. More than you think, guys, because you're always going to want to bring a college guy in here to just help bring in some concepts to you. By the way, they did that in Indianapolis, and he ended up becoming the offensive coordinator with Iowa State. So, I mean, there's already a blueprint for this type of thing happening with this particular coaching staff. So, I mean, with Sirianni, he's already seen that work out. So, I mean, I wonder how much can they build the offense around his ability to be a nightmare, with RPOs, to be a nightmare with some zone option stuff, to be, just quarterback designed run stuff. Like that's what I'm really curious from the coaching perspective. Like what can Nick Sirianni do? Cause like we talked about striking balance, about being on time and on schedule within the offense to playing outside the structure. There's also a balance between, okay, like this is what my offense is, but this is the unique abilities of this player. And I got to strike a balance between what this guy can bring, this modern new wave age of quarterback play, compared to what I know has been tried and true and has worked for me in the past. Can I blend in? There's so many questions to be answered this season, in my opinion. And I don't think it's fully on Jalen Hurts. I think some of this is on the coaching staff to prove it too.
No, yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I mean, one thing I like that Sirianni said was that they're going to try to be multiple with the scheme. Now, we'll see what that looks like in practice. I think it's more so like, at least if I had to guess, more so you're going to adjust based on what, your opponent's tendencies are and all that. Yeah. Not the drastic where people are going to say, well, does that mean you're going to go from, spread 1 week to single wing? No. But I think that it's definitely going to be I think you're going to see some stuff built into the Jalen Hurts strengths. Obviously, I can't predict that for sure, but I definitely think they need to do that too, because you look at that New Orleans game last year when we just completely caught them. Obviously, first time they're seeing Jalen Hurts for a full game. So, I know we had the full week to build the game plan around it too, but just some of the stuff that was built in. I remember it was like, I believe we were in pistol and we had a triple option, and then Jalen Reagor came around the back on that reverse, which was, I'm sure you remember, which was a beautiful play design. But obviously you're not going to run that a ton. But Sirianni, I mean, obviously in Indianapolis, they did run the reverse game a little more than we did, a little more of the jet sweep game. We do a lot of jet motion, but I definitely didn't hand it off to the jet motion man a ton from what I at least from my perspective. So I do think that they're definitely going to try to build that stuff in, and I'm excited to see it. Like I said, I think he has the intangibles. A lot of guys do have the intangibles though, and it just depends on, again, how well they can find a balance between that. Like you said, I think balance is the perfect word to describe it, and just how well they can, get things going around him. I think the wide receiver position is also something we can talk about that I have a lot of confidence they're gonna get set. But I like what you said about Brian Johnson. Look, Florida, good offense over there with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts and all of them. I think you're definitely going to see some of that stuff brought over, and they're going to try to definitely. I think that Brian Johnson is definitely going to have say. You look at DeFilippo, went on to become offensive coordinator. So,
well, when I was watching film of Florida, I love their offense. Their offense was, it was really creative. It really was. But the one thing I kept saying is I went into the film study much higher. I was so much higher on quarterback play at Florida going into the film study than coming away from it. Kyle Trask was a big statue. But even Kyle Trask was utilized and did some quarterback power stuff and and was effective, to be honest. And I'm like, this guy also coached De'Ara King. He had Dak Prescott. He's definitely gotten production. I'm like, I do think that he's there for more than just he's definitely there to work on making Jalen Hurts comfortable, trying to help him out with film study, trying to make sure he's getting to the right reads, all that kind of stuff. But I also think he's there to help design offense too. I think he's there for the install. Install's done in the offseason, guys. They're going to install this playbook, and I do think that he's going to have a role there. I think Brian Johnson's going to have a role. All right, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, guys, that is Hunter Doyle from Philly Insider Podcast. All of his information will be linked down below. Guys, I really like his content. I think you will too. You should give it just give it a view, guys. Check it out. I want to go into something that Hunter said, though, about Zach Ertz, because I think it's an important point. We talked about trading from 6 to 12, and not being the primary reason isn't to save money, but that clearly plays a role in why you make such decisions. It's kind of the icing on the cake. Well, we also talked about the fact that the Eagles could still potentially move back up in the draft again, too. But you're still facing the money issue. You can move up into the top 10. That could be a play. Or the Eagles can move from the second round to the first round. Either way, it's going to shift the rookie pool you have to pay a little bit. Yes, you'll still have the $660,000 that'll come off from the rookie pool because that's the league minimum. So that's already being paid from your salary cap as it is. But you move a guy like Zach Ertz, guys, and once again, you're talking about cap savings. But I think it's more significant than that, because it's not just cap savings to get draft picks, because we have enough money to get whatever draft picks we want. That's not our issue, guys. The additional $4.5 to $5 million that Zach Ertz could save you could also lead to, if you don't fill every hole that you feel confident going into the 2021 season with, you can dip back into this veteran free agency market post the draft to fill in some voids here, guys. And I think sometimes that stuff, it goes underrated. It goes unnoticed, really. And it should be talked about more, but a lot of people don't. All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and I will see you on the next video.